thank you all for being with us this evening. It's important and it's good, and I'm just honored and thrilled to be here with Julie Fohrman and Elizabeth Urey. Some of you have met Elizabeth. Some of you have met her only through the phone or through other things. She has been our JCFS liaison since about May and has been doing great things with us. It means that a few of her many hours a week are dedicated to NSCI, and we are so lucky to have her working with us. I keep coming up with crazy ideas, and I think I've overwhelmed her hours even before. So I'm really grateful for that. And wow, Julie Fohrman and I go back a few years. She's got kids applying to college, and they were once in our preschool when we had the Gates of Learning preschool. She was my first twins mom resource. And Julie is a gerontologist and has her own practice as a North Shore, I'm going to get your title wrong, North Shore Geriatric Care. What's the business title? I've got your title. What did I miss?
Oh, you did a good job. North Shore Geriatric Care Management.
Julie's a geriatric care manager. She's a phenomenal resource for so many in our community. And I can tell you, even as a child of someone who I needed help out in another community, has been a resource for me. And this evening's program came out of conversations that I've had with them individually over time. And I've had with actually a number of you on the call in terms of how do we bridge our responsibilities, our loves generally, and particularly in this time. It is no easy feat, whether we live near our loved ones or far. And, we know from Torah, not everyone here is, is caring for a parent for sure, but I think the principle holds. We know in Torah we're told to honor our parents. And the Talmud says, well, what is considered honor? And then it explains, honor is one who gives their father, I would say mother too, food and drink, dresses and covers them, and brings him in and takes him out for all his household needs. So the Talmud interprets that commandment of honoring our parents as giving them dignity and dignifying our parents and keeping their dignity. Some of us here are helping parents, some are spouses, some are siblings, some are children, and we're also trying to balance where we are individually or ourselves. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for bringing your open hearts and open minds. These are not easy times, and there are moments that we feel any number of feelings: heaviness, sadness, guilt, powerlessness. And we also feel the miracles of connectivity when we can do things like this online or connect with our loved ones online at the same time as we may not be able to see them. So I'm going to turn to Elizabeth and Julie. They will both speak. And then after they're speaking, we'll turn to questions from you all. If you have questions while they're speaking, I encourage you to put the questions in the chat, and I'll bring the questions to them afterwards, so you don't have to worry about remembering your questions. Thank you both for being here this evening. It means so much. I'm really honored to learn at your feet.
Well, thank you for having me. We really appreciate it, and I'm very excited to present to everybody here and to meet everybody. As Rabbi Greene stated, I'm the liaison for North Shore Congregation Israel, and I just want to take a couple minutes to explain what that means. So hopefully it will give you some ideas on how I can possibly assist you with resources and consultation. So JCFS is an organization with services and programs that address the social services and mental health of individuals and families. So as a partner and liaison, I work with you when you have life challenges or changes and you might need help for next steps. I like to say I have a big toolbox with tools from JCFS, as well as our Jewish partners out in the community, as well as geographic resources in your area. So the way it works is that you can reach out to me, or you can reach out to the rabbis and they will reach out to me. We'll set up a time to have conversation, talk about what things are going on. And a big part of what I do is I listen and then ask questions. And then together we create a plan with resources that will help you get unstuck and help you get to where you need to go. It might be that you're looking for counseling for somebody who's having difficulty coping with online classes. Or you're looking for financial aid for transportation for a loved one, or you're making a career change and you need services to help you find a job, help you recreate your resume, or just help you decide what you want to be when you grow up. So I am thrilled to be talking about this topic. It's very fresh for me because not only am I speaking as a JCFS liaison, but I'm also speaking from personal experience. I am a sandwich generation adult myself. My husband and I have 3 parents in various living arrangements, and we're both involved in their daily care. And we have 2 college students who were taking classes at home at the end of last year, all the way through the summer, went back to school, and now are coming back again for Thanksgiving, and we'll be home for January. So you can imagine how full my life is. And there are times when I really have to stop and take a breath and remind myself to look around. There are also days when I don't remember where I put my keys, where I put my glasses, where I put my cup of coffee that I just put down. I'm sure you can all fill in the blank there. So we're going to spend some time on self-care. Self-care really is something that some of us, maybe all of us, think is possibly a luxury. But really, self-care is a physiological safeguard that keeps us well. First, I want to acknowledge some of what we're feeling as the sandwich generation and why it's hard for us to find time for self-care. Some of you may relate to these sentences, so let's see how we do. So the first one is, my loved one is in another state and I feel helpless that I can't be with them. The next one is, I want to be supportive of my sibling who is there for my loved one, but I don't know how. My parents don't listen to what I say, and I don't feel that they're staying safe. Taking care of my older loved ones cuts into time with my immediate family, and I feel guilty that I don't always have the time I want with them. Sometimes I'm so frustrated that I take things out on my kids, like being impatient, short with them, or sometimes just checked out. I feel thinking about taking care of myself is selfish, and my loved ones call me many times a day, and I feel that I always have to answer it, but it takes so much out of me. So I'm just wondering, how many of you feel any of those? A couple hands there, okay. I know I do feel that way sometimes. So all of these are called stressors, which, as you might imagine, causes stress. So the definition of stress is a neurological and physiological shift that happens in your body when you encounter threats. We are going to focus on the stress and not the stressors. I'll let Julie handle the stressors. So when your brain notices the stressor, it activates as a generic stress response, a cascade of neurological and hormonal activity that initiates physiological changes to help you survive. Epinephrine acts instantly to push blood into your muscles, glucocorticoids keep you going, and endorphins help you ignore how uncomfortable all of this is. So what exactly does this mean? It means that you keep moving to get to the stressor. Your body pushes to react without realizing how hard it is working until you stop. So I want to share a story with you that illustrates this concept. So I was at the grocery store and I had 14 items in my shopping cart and decided to go to the express lane, which everybody knows is 15 items or less. I waited in line until there was one man left at the front of the counter at the checkout, and as he was leaving, I moved forward and he started screaming at me that I had too many items in my cart and how dare I enter this line. I looked behind me and saw that there was a long line of people waiting and watching to see how this was all going to unfold. Suddenly, I felt my heart start pounding like it was going to jump out of my chest, and my face reddened and my hands started shaking and sweating. So I'm not really sure why that happened since I was following the rules, but this man was in my face and he was yelling at me while others were waiting to see what I was going to do. So the neurological and hormonal activities had definitely kicked in. My brain went directly to, okay, how am I going to react? Am I going to yell back and tell him to mind his own business take everything out of my cart and count the items to show him how wrong he was, or ignore him while I pay, and then walk out saying, "Have a nice day." The thought process seemed so long, but only took a couple of seconds before I reacted. I chose the latter. I was still shaking and my knees were knocking as I walked out. I was sweating like I had finished a run, and the stressor was gone. And as I walked away from the grocery store to the car, my body was still screaming. I was so angry and so insulted. My stomach was doing flip-flops and I was stressed. So why? The situation was over, so why was my body still reacting? Because I hadn't given my body the time to process it yet. I don't mean unpacking it to try and think about what really happened and how I would have done things differently. I mean the physical process, so the physiological changes could recalibrate. I hadn't given my body an appropriate outlet to let it go. So you may be asking, what did I do? Well, I'm not going to tell you yet, because we're going to go through the different releases, and then at the end, we'll talk about what I did. So how many times do you find that we've had stressors all day long, like calling the doctor, talking to your loved one about safety measures, making sure the schedule for driving, meals, your work appointments, answering all your emails, not forgetting to put dates in your calendar are done, and you come to the end of the day, but you still feel stressed. You may sleep, or you may toss and turn, and then you get up the next day and you do it all over again. And this happens every day. Don't get me wrong, stress is not always bad. It's only bad when the stress outpaces our capacity to process it. So if you don't give yourself a positive outlet, it can manifest in many ways. Physically, it can affect your organs, your immune system. Mentally, it can affect your mood, your self-esteem, and in short, just your mental wellness in general. So have you ever finished something extremely stressful and then gotten a cold or a flu as you were letting yourself release? That's because your body is working through the stress. As a result, we can shut down, feel numb, petrified, or disconnected, which in the long run not only hurts you, but everyone around you that you're trying to help. So now the good news. There are ways to deal with the stress, and it doesn't have to be a big production. You've probably heard of a lot of these ideas that we're going to go over today, but not necessarily through a physiological lens. Who knows, maybe one day they'll actually prescribe breathing. Research has proven that these outlets actually change your body's effect on stress and allow you to deal with the stressors. So the goal of the outlets that we're going to be going over is they get you to breathe deeply, which recalibrates your body. That's really the big secret. The feeling that you are striving for after you have taken someone to the hospital and waited for hours to go through all the tests, questions, and waiting for results, or when your loved one calls you from an assisted living because they want to see you and you can't visit because of COVID. It's very stressful. Because we deal with many stressors each day, ideally, many of us wait to the end of the day to go for a run or to watch a Netflix show or to just release at the end of the day. But it's really a cycle. It's a true cycle. So what it says is that you should be recalibrating after each stressor. So the cycle is the stressor, the stress, the end of the stressor, and then the outlet to end the stressor. And we're going to go over the top 10 outlets today, or this evening. I'm just going to put this up here. I'm going to share this so that, because I don't typically like to talk so much, but hopefully you can follow along. Let me just share this screen here. Here we go. Okay, let me get to slideshow from the beginning. All right, So the first one is physical activity. So physical activity is something that we've all been told is good for us, whether or not we really like to do it. So the physical activity that is the norm is usually, they say 20 to 60 minutes, either every day or close to every day during the week. But it also, up to 5 minutes a day, it works as far as getting your breath recalibrated. So scientists have found that the participation in aerobic exercise has been shown to decrease overall levels of tension, alleviate and stabilize mood, improve sleep, and improve self-esteem. So if you're not an exerciser, we have 9 others to go through. So the next one is standing. Believe it or not, just standing up from your chair, taking a deep breath, and tensing all your muscles for 20 seconds, then shaking it out with a big exhale is an excellent outlet as well. So if you've just finished a major stressor and you're able to stand up and do this exercise, it will release the tension and recalibrate your breathing, especially since we're spending more time in front of our screens. Before COVID, you might have driven from place to place, which has its own challenges, of course, to take care of daily tasks for your loved one. But now, more is being done on the computer, whether by email or Zoom. We may be too busy to realize how it affects us until it builds up inside of us. So standing periodically, especially after a difficult call, can change the direction of your breathing. So speaking of breathing, deep slow breaths downregulate the stress response. It's really an effective non-pharmacological intervention for emotional enhancement. And so if you do it 5 minutes, 3 times a day, it can reduce anxiety. And if it's done correctly, when you inhale, your diaphragm doesn't rise, but your belly contracts. In my handout that I'll be sending out later, there's some exercises in there for you. But a simple practice is really, if you breathe in for the count of 5, you hold it for 5, you exhale for a slow count of 10, and then hold for another count of 5. This is really helpful actually when you're in the car and you're in a major traffic jam trying to get somewhere and you're stuck. The breathing makes a big difference because we have a tendency to start to hyperventilate. The next one is positive social interaction. And we all have our close friends, our inner circle, but believe it or not, those that have more acquaintances are happier. And the reason being is that because usually when you're talking to an acquaintance, you only have a short period of time to exchange niceties, and so you keep it positive. And so next time you're getting your coffee, talk to your barista. Next time you go to the grocery store, talk to that cashier. It relieves stress, whether you're there by yourself, whether you're there with a loved one. It works really well. The next one is laughter. When we talk about laughter, we're not talking about the polite laughter when somebody tells a bad joke. We're talking about a belly laugh that makes you cry and makes your stomach hurt because you're laughing so hard. And that actually recalibrates your breathing as well. So think about, when was the last time you had a good belly laugh? And see if you can make that happen sooner than later. The next one is affection. Hugs and kisses, as you can imagine, are a great outlet, but not just any hugs or any kisses. The hug should be a big bear hug that lasts for 20 seconds, and the kiss should be 6 seconds long. Trust me, both are really long if you're not expecting it and you don't have time, but it brings your heart rate down because it makes you stop and stand still and concentrate on the person that you're hugging and kissing. Have you ever had a child who is out of control and you just grab them and hug them until they calm down? It's really kind of the same concept. Speaking of affection, we have pets. So pets, it's shown that petting dogs or cats lower your blood pressure. Pet owners often describe their attachments to their pets as more supportive than their human relationships. So one of the things we have a tendency to do with our pets is talk, either baby talk, or we talk in this high-toned, happy talk with our pet, and that piece brings our heart rate down and also recalibrates our mood. What happened there? Next is, did I just unshare?
I think I inadvertently unshared you, but can you scroll down on it? It wasn't keeping up with you talking, so I think there was a glitch in the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second. Share. Okay. So we talked about pets, spirituality. So whether you believe in something higher or you're looking for social support provided by your fellow members of your synagogue, many people find connecting either way can lower their stress level. It can be either from repetition of prayers and the music while you're davening, or the commitment to being on a committee, or finding friendship with another congregant or a rabbi. One of my favorites is a big cry. Just letting go is just an amazing release, and finding the best tearjerker movie works really well because you can turn it on, you know the part where you're gonna start crying, you can end it, be done with your crying, and walk away. And it is unbelievable stress reliever. And the last one is creative expression. There's really so many ways to be creative that give you energy and change your mood, from journaling, which helps you work out your stress by giving your story a different narrative, and using colors that are calm for painting, and singing music is actually as rigorous as a workout, as a physical workout. So I'm going to unshare and finish the story from earlier to tell you what it was that I did. So actually, as I walked to my car, I filled the back with my groceries. I closed the back, got in the front seat, made sure all my windows were rolled up, and I screamed as loud as I possibly could while hitting the steering wheel. And as I was doing that, I broke into laughter, and it became such a belly laugh that I ended up crying. So I got all three in there, but I got it all out. It felt great. I turned the car on, and I went on my way, and it was done. It was over. Even the stress was gone, and I was able to move on to the next piece. You know, we all have our days when staying in our pajamas with a pint of ice cream with the shades down seems like a good choice, or maybe something equivalent to that for others. And that's okay every once in a while. But if it ends up being more than not, or it becomes your norm, it's time to find something positive to look for as far as relieving stress, or maybe even getting some support. The important piece is to find your go-to. So use it to end your stress after each stressor, to tell your body, I'm ending the feeling of stress for this moment so that I can move on. To be well is not to live in a state of perpetual safety and calm, but to move fluidly from a state of adversity, risk, adventure, or excitement back to safety and calm, and then start the cycle all over again. Stress isn't bad for you. Being stuck is what's bad for you. Wellness happens when your body is a place of safety, even when your body is not necessarily in a safe place. You can be well even during the times when you don't feel good. And if you feel that you're stuck and you want to share, feel free to email me or contact the rabbi to reach out to me. I would be happy to talk to you. And I want to thank you all very much. I don't know if we're taking questions at this point or we're waiting to the very end.
Let's wait till the end. Let's
great.
let Julie. But if you have questions that you want now, please put them in the chat, and then they'll be there, and we won't worry about forgetting them. Thanks.
Great. And then I will turn this over to Julie.
Hi. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be here tonight and to share some advice as a gerontologist. I know we're all dealing with a lot of stress, but we thought maybe I could turn the focus onto caring for loved ones, in particular caring for seniors and older family members. As everyone knows, COVID poses several challenges, especially when it comes to caring for older loved ones who are isolated and very isolated. Some seniors are on lockdown by certain states. Certainly our state is on a lockdown. So what that means is if a senior is in a care facility, assisted living, memory care, or nursing home, they can't go in and out freely. They can't have visitors. Loved ones can't come in and see them. I can't take my patients even to the doctor because when I do, I have to put them back on a 14-day room quarantine. So all of us in medicine are turning our heads and thought we've seen it all. This has really thrown a wrench in that. As a gerontologist, I help families develop care plans and seniors. I work directly with seniors and their family members. And we try to come up with all the different scenarios of aging and what could happen on their long journey of aging. And this pandemic has certainly taught me things that I never thought would exist in 28 years because we've had to pivot at every point. Today I wanted to talk about some things that we can do to help family members who are feeling isolated and help seniors, especially as they might be on a lockdown or in a different state. The obvious is practicing good personal hygiene, especially if you're going to be near a senior. Helping a loved one stock up on essentials, especially going into the winter right now, is really important. And keeping busy. And keeping busy can be a lot of different things. And right now, even though we're stuck inside, there are certain things that we can do to handle our stress or to de-stress and decompress. And I'll talk about a lot of those things today. I did create a very long handout. I thought it would be very distracting to give beforehand. But in the handout, which is about, I think, 10 pages, for those of you that have senior family members, parents, aunts, uncles, I did create a handout with phone numbers, websites, and links that have been particularly helpful during COVID. The number one question I hear lately from family members is how do we maintain mental and physical well-being? And how do we connect with people? And this is lovely, and Zoom is lovely. A lot of seniors don't have Zoom. They don't have technology. I have a lot of clients that don't even have a cell phone. So some of the advice tonight that I'm going to share is obviously for certain segments of the senior population. But I think the main things that we need to do are to foster connection, to foster hope and purpose, and give seniors a sense of purpose. And some things that we need to focus on in the basics are things like prescriptions, food preparation. How are they getting their food? How are they preparing their meals? How are they handling things that, you know, normally they would be able to go out and do? So I think it's really important if you're caring for a senior to really think about all the aspects of their life and what can be done to make things easier, and what services can be brought into the home. I mean, some seniors don't have Amazon Prime. They're not used to Uber Eats or Grubhub or any of the things that a younger generation would be used to. So the first few weeks and months of COVID was pretty interesting for me, just explaining to some clients that they could order from restaurants and have it delivered, a few nights of meals even. So I think some basic care needs certainly need to be addressed, but then there's the larger connection of focusing on things that could be hobbies that they could continue, getting some exercise in a very confined space. That might be low impact exercises or just stretches. Maintaining a healthy perspective and connection is really important. One of the things I wanted to talk about today, because I don't know how many people on the phone are familiar with this, but the whole concept of telemedicine has really skyrocketed. And so for a lot of seniors and family members that I'm dealing with, I'm connecting them to providers that want to help through telemedicine, telehealth. So if you're a parent, if you have a parent or a loved one, I do think it's really important to navigate their health care with them and help them through some of these telehealth issues by asking questions, writing down questions in advance, reviewing their medications, reviewing any medical concerns in advance. Beside that, a lot of people are foregoing appointments. They're not going to the dentist. They're not going to the podiatrist. They're scared to go out. And so I was curious of how many people on the call today have that, because I think that that's one of the biggest questions I get is, what do I do for my loved one? They're really stuck. So there are some providers that go to the house, and I do list a lot of providers in my packet. They're home health care providers, they're medical social workers that are going into the home, they're home health companies that you can hire. I see Suzanne's on the call. She actually runs the staffing for a home care agency and has worked in this community for a long time. But a lot of seniors now are bringing in a companion or an aide or a CNA to help. And they never thought they'd need the help, but during COVID, it's been very helpful to run errands, to do some driving, to prepare meals, to do some light housekeeping, to keep them company, to play a game of chess or cards, or just someone to talk to. So there are a lot of different things we can do to bring in care, even though we are in a COVID pandemic. Mental health, as Elizabeth was saying, is really important, and many older adults are really struggling with loneliness and isolation because they don't have all these connections that younger people have. They're not getting out as much. They don't have school and work and, are not as active right now. So checking in on seniors and helping either a family member or friend is really important. I think staying in touch with telecommunication is pretty easy. I mean, phone calls and emails are the easiest and certainly the most accessible options for seniors who might not be tech savvy. But some are really quickly coming to speed and learning about Skype, learning about FaceTime. I've hooked many people up with this great concept. I was sharing that with Lisa the other day called Facebook Portal. Is there anyone on the call today who knows what Facebook Portal is? Peggy? Okay, I'm going to ask Peggy to unmute herself. How do I do that? Can I unmute?
It's great. It's like a, have you ever seen it, Julie? Have you done it?
Oh, I do it all the time. I've been setting it up for
Explain it
clients.
better than I can.
Yeah. So I was telling Lisa, I think Facebook portal, every senior should have that in their home. If I tell you one thing tonight and you've not checked out what Facebook portal TV is, you need to check it out. It is, you don't need to have the machine or the small device. The senior has it. You set them up with Messenger and a Facebook account, which takes literally 1 minute. And the camera follows the senior around their home. It moves with them. You get to see their whole body, not their face, as you do in a FaceTime, or like we're seeing right now. You see their entire environment. It's hands-free. All you have to say is answer a call. The senior could be on their couch. They don't even have to get up. I mean, there's been some really great technologies that have really saved seniors during this time. I have a lot of care staff that live in with clients. I have a lot of seniors that are in care centers that we've set up this portal. And if it wasn't for that, their daughter or son would never see them right now. So there are some really interesting technologies that I would consider. I'm not very versed with this one, but there's something called the Grand Pad. It's like an iPad meant for seniors that only has a few buttons and a few apps that are very easy to use and accessible. A lot of people are buying iPads right now because, unlike a big computer, an iPad, you can remove a lot of the functions and just put several apps, easy things, you know, and games can be put on there, music can be put on. But I would encourage everyone to try some senior-friendly tech products. In my handouts, I list what are the best phones for seniors, what are the most senior-friendly phones. Something that I'm very fond of, I think is very important for seniors that live alone, is to have a lifeline system, a life alert. The concept of it, if I fell, like, you know, I forgot what that bad commercial is. Help, I fell, please get me up, you know. So the 24-hour pendant, this lifeline concept that you can have on your body, either as a watch, bracelet, or as a pendant necklace, where you're 24-hour monitored, so that if you don't feel well, if you'd like to talk to someone, if you fell, or you need assistance, you have a 24-hour call on your body. And then Life Alert, Lifeline, there are a few different companies that sell these, have all of your emergency contacts. They know your first responder, second responder, they know your medical conditions, they know your medications, they know your health issues. They would be calling your doctor if you're in the hospital. So there are some important technologies I would consider during COVID if you're caring for a loved one. Another thing is just a nanny cam. Some people are very nervous and they're buying these little units that are in the kitchen or in a living room, and they want to visually see, you know, has my mom got up today, or is there motion in the living room? And they want to, you know, check on their loved ones. So there are a lot of different technologies that are available. But getting back to communication, picking up the phone, scheduling family calls, scheduling family Zoom calls is really neat for seniors to have their loved ones, their grandkids and their children on at the same time. If a senior is living in a facility or has a caregiver, I found that the caregivers are happy to set this up. You know, sometimes this is hard if the senior is not tech friendly. In terms of things to keep busy, you know, resurrecting hobbies has been interesting for a lot of people. Families are sending scrapbooks to seniors. They're sending crossword puzzles, crafts, knitting kits, crochet kits, anything that art projects, you know, family photos so that the senior can make their own album. There are a lot of things that we can do in our house. And I think that, you know, staying engaged, not only through technology, but through keeping busy is really important. A lot of seniors are not used to Netflix and streaming services. Some are addicted and some are not. If your loved one is not familiar with a streaming service or doesn't have access to that, I think that's been a lifesaver for a lot of people. And I know a lot of families, like a book club, they're watching a movie or a documentary or a series, and then they're having weekly calls about it. And it's kind of entertaining and fun, and they're suggesting different programs to one another. But it's one of those things that you can do together that, you know, keeps the person engaged and interested. All of the libraries throughout the United States, all of the museums, and most universities are offering now free online education. It's amazing to me how many websites are open right now. It could be the Louvre in Paris, the Guggenheim Museum in New York, the Yellowstone National Park, the New York Philharmonic. I mean, there are almost every major website has figured out a way to address isolation, whether it's for seniors or for all of us. And you can go see all the art at the Art Institute, and it's really cool. So if you're looking for things for a loved one to do, obviously they would have to have an iPad or a computer. There are a lot of suggestions of things that are going to be on the handouts I have, you know, to keep people engaged, to keep people positive and interactive. You know, so that each day doesn't just blend into the next. One of the things I've said to my clients for the last few months is, please turn off the news. It's a little easier now that the election is over to turn off the news, but that is very important, I think, for our well-being. I mean, I know a lot of clients that literally sit between CNBC or CNN or Fox. They are literally glued to the TV for 12 hours a day. And I don't think that's great for our well-being. And I think we need to all find ways to engage with other activities. A client of mine was just telling me that her family has a senior care package, and every week she gets sent a care package. I thought this was a great idea. Now she lives local, but I think you could very well do that for a loved one who lives out of state. So I said, what was in your senior package? So she said, well, last week I got baked goods that I had to prepare for my grandchildren, you know, the items, the actual ingredients, games, puzzles, Sudoku, word box, I don't know what that is, but word searches, large print magazines, large print books, box of cards. So I think there's some interesting things that we can do to bring to people, to bring to their house or their care center. The facilities of retirement, assisted living, memory care, and nursing are not allowing visitors, but most of them will allow care packages. They will allow you to safely drop off a bag, and they will deliver it to a family member or friend. If the senior needs support, as I said, home care agencies are probably the busiest right now in the senior industry. People are calling left and right, you know, what can you do for my parent? What can you do for me? It's a little more self-evident when the person needs full-time care, like they have a live-in caregiver or they need daily care. But I don't think people really realize that you can hire a caregiver, pseudo companion, CNA, to do things with your family member, with a loved one. It can be 1 day a week, 2 days a week, half days. It can be, you know, just to get some errands done. And it's really important. It's a short-term commitment. It's a per diem daily contract. But it is a nice way for the senior to have some support. Most of my clients are very scared. You know, they don't know if they should be stockpiling again. They don't know if they should be going out into a store when they hear that the COVID numbers are increasing. So if you enlist the caregiver service, that person can help be responsible and can report back to loved ones how the senior's doing. A lot of people are doing these window visits, which has been kind of interesting around the country. Some facilities are setting up window stations with plexiglass where you can have face-to-face, but you're blocked with a plastic barrier. Some people are having their loved ones just drive by and honk or come and wave through the window. And it really is nice. I mean, it's nice for the caregivers and seniors to see family and friends. It makes them feel connected to have that physical sight and contact. But I think the next few weeks and months are going to get harder, as seniors see the numbers increasing, as family members don't want to potentially infect their loved ones, especially if they have young children or like Elizabeth said, in the sandwich generation, if you're working and you have young kids and they're with kids, or you're on your job, you have a lot of different exposure. You might be even nervous to see your own parent, even if you're masked and gloved or, socially distancing. So I would say it's really important to think about the coming weeks and develop a schedule. If you're an only child, obviously that's different, but if you have multiple siblings or resources, to develop a schedule of online shopping orders, things that can be done over the phone in terms of ordering in meals. There are a lot of chef programs that have started. A lot of the restaurants and chefs have started creating meals where they'll deliver 2 or 3 days of meals to your door, and then you can heat them up or put them in, put them in your refrigerator and eat them over the next 2 or 3 days. I know of at least 6 or 7 companies now on the North Shore that were formerly catering companies that are now doing this, which is really a nice gift for a loved one so that they don't have to cook and so that you don't have to worry about their nutritional status as well. So stocking up a little, taking care of food, running errands is really important. All of the pharmacies now are largely delivering. A lot of the insurance companies are letting people stockpile their medications so that you don't have to go every 30 days. A lot of the doctors, if you're having problems, will go out like 6 months now so that you don't have to keep going to the pharmacy. There are also local support for almost every suburb, every township, and every community. And I wanted to talk about that. She couldn't be on the phone today, but I had asked Emily Maisel wanted to come, and join today. And she's the social worker for the family services of Glencoe. And what I wanted to share with you is that there is not a suburb or a county that does not have a senior center. There are area agency on aging senior centers throughout the United States. And they have free support, free social workers, and free community resources. So if you have a loved one in a different state or city and are worried about them, they are doing check-in visits. They're doing friendly visitor checks on seniors if you let them know that you have a isolated senior or someone that you're worried about who lives alone. But more importantly, they're sharing with family and seniors over 1,000 benefits and services that exist. It's amazing how many programs exist. Discount prescription pharmacy programs, chore and homemaker service programs, transportation programs, housing programs, financial assistance programs like Medicaid, spend down, Social Security, disability, food stamps, free legal assistance, energy and utility assistance. A lot of the benefits are for moderate, lower income seniors, but nonetheless, they have a lot of programs and services. So if you do have a loved one and you're kind of curious what is out there, I would Google the area agency on aging. It's the AAA. In this area, for example, Highland Park has a senior center. Deerfield has a senior center. The North Shore has the senior center on Hap Road in Northfield, which is tremendously helpful for the North Shore. They have a ton of staff and services going out of that building, classes online, and programs. Has anyone used any of the senior centers? Maybe I'll stop and ask a question for a loved one. Wait, I just saw someone raise their hand. Is that Deborah? Can you?
Debbie Coach said yes, and Peggy Rubenstein said yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I unmute or I don't know?
I unmuted myself.
Oh, there you go.
All right,
There
there
you
you go.
Hi, Deb.
I
So have you used the senior center here?
I used the North Shore Senior Center
Okay. Uh-huh.
For myself,
Uh-huh.
because there are people there who take care of caregivers.
Oh, uh-huh. Mhm.
So that was very
Respite care.
advantageous for myself. And
Mhm.
also, I have broached the topic with her about having a loved one out of town who has issues. So I talk, whenever I want to, but at first quite regularly with the person who was helping me as a caregiver take care of myself.
Oh, very interesting. Okay.
And they also periodically offer a 6-week class that I attended,
Mhm.
where there were a group of not too many, where we were led through a whole workbook about how to take care of yourself as a caregiver.
Very
And it
interesting.
was with all different kinds of issues.
Right. The senior centers have an amazing array of services for family members. They offer support groups. They offer classes and services. They have free care management, which is what I do, and they're really good at it. So I would definitely make sure that if you're caring for a family member, you know what your local senior center is capable of, and how you can access them. They're very good at knowing the resources, from the tree trimmer to the person who is great at helping with snow removal. I mean, they really are there to help seniors and their family members, and especially helping for long distance caregiving. Knowing the senior center and the resources that they can provide can be very helpful during this unique time. Another thing that I thought that we didn't really talk about, but I happen to specialize in, is memory loss. This is a very, very hard time for seniors who are suffering from cognitive impairments, dementia, Alzheimer's. The Alzheimer's Association's website, alz.gov, has an amazing array of support right now for seniors, for their loved ones. They have a 24-hour hotline. They have memory cafe programs online, and they have a lot of support to help seniors that are suffering from memory loss right now. I didn't want to talk a lot about what a care manager does, but I think I should give a little bit of a promotion to the idea that if you are feeling like this is overwhelming to take care of a spouse or a loved one or a family member out of town, the field of aging life care management, which is geriatric care management, we do have a website that is a national finder service. It's called aginglifecare.org, and that will be in the handout. You can find a care manager like myself. They might be a nurse, a social worker, a gerontologist, or someone with a healthcare background in every city, state, and zip code through this website. And it will link you to their website, their bio. It will share what kind of practice they have, what is their scope of service. You know, with COVID, so many families can't go in and they feel so helpless, even if there's an emergency situation, but a care manager is allowed in to most facilities. So it's not a bad idea if you have a loved one at a distance to have a backup plan of someone who could be on the ground in case there is an emergency or a concern. So that's a really helpful way to identify care managers through the Aging Life Care website.
I want to give people questions, so I'll finish that point, and then maybe we'll just open the floor a little bit for questions.
Okay.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Is there anyone on the call who has an experience using a care manager? Lisa?
Yeah, thanks to Julie's recommendation, I've worked with care managers in New Jersey, where my mom is, for about 5 years, and as many of you know, just knowing me, my sister and I are not local, and they are our lifesavers, our eyes and ears on the ground, visiting when it wasn't COVID, helping us with doctor's appointments or things like a broken bed rail on a hospital bed or an emergency with something else, but also just eyes when we couldn't see my mom other than over a screen.
Yeah. So, and a care manager can be a great resource just to know what's in the community. We're on call 24 hours a day. And it's like a helpful hand on the other side to be able to troubleshoot any kind of emergency or referral. You know, we specialize in geriatrics, so the referrals that are going to happen are either you know, for specific issues or just to globally look at health, wellness, safety, engagement, things that we're talking about. So there's so much to talk about. I didn't even know where to begin with our conversation today. I think it's best to open it up. I did put together a big handout. So if you're bored tonight later and you want some more reading material, you can read the handout.
So we will, Debbie Haywood, who's right now on the screen, is Black, who is, many of you know by name or by face or by the phenomenal work she does for me specifically and for NSCI, has an email ready to go out to all of you who are on this call in the morning with Elizabeth's handout and Julie's handout. I'd love to turn to questions. I'm going to ask you to ask questions that might apply to more than to you. If it's a very specific question, I think that's maybe we can hold that in abeyance for the moment, and if we have time at the end. You can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question, and if two people speak at once, we'll figure it out. Julie, one thing that made me think when you were just talking about care manager, at least in New Jersey, I was able to fill out a form that said if my mother lost power, she had, you know, health concerns, and that they would prioritize putting on her power. So if you have a loved one who lives far away, you can't access them, you may be able to do something like that, you know, like not worrying that it's cold or hot. Small thing, but.
Most townships and smaller suburbs and rural areas, they have a list of seniors. They have an identified list, and even Glencoe has a list of seniors they do wellness checks on and well-being checks. So that's another thing that
Glencoe's amazing about that. They've done that for years.
Yeah.
I know.
And they're not alone. They're certainly a little more proactive, but there are a lot of towns that have that. I think that's important for family members to know that.
Yeah. Questions?